Hello and welcome to another week of the WSS Draft League. We are 1-1 and I forgot to crop the thing to the screen, so let's just do that right now. We're doing it live, I don't care. I have like 15 minutes until I'm supposed to be playing, so may as well just do everything on the fly. Anyways, our opponents this week 3 are the Glaceon Apologists, and they've got quite a team. Let's just get straight into it because I need to get this recorded as quickly as possible so that I can maybe potentially get to the match on time. Anyways, Dragapult is the big hard hitter on their team. It's an S tier, of course. Clear Body is the most likely ability. Infiltrator is possible, but less likely. Cursed Body is almost certainly not coming. We've got Life Orb as probably the most likely item, but it can run all sorts of sets as well that I have to look out for. It could run a physical set like the one I've got here. That's what I think is most likely. But it could just as easily run a special set because it often does run special sets with like Flamethrower or Thunderbolt just for better coverage. Yeah, very fast, very hard hitting on both sides. It does have a decent number of weaknesses, though, that I can hopefully take advantage of with my team. Moving on to the next Pokemon, we've got Alolan Ninetales. Alolan Ninetales is basically an Aurora Veil setter in most circumstances, though it also does threaten with Blizzard and Moonblast. I should probably give it special attack and like a nature. That would probably be useful. It's probably going to have those. Light Clay is the most common item. It could also run Focus Sash just because it's 4 times weak to Steel and has a lot of other weaknesses besides. Based on its ice typing. Snow Warning ability is definitely there. It's never going to be running Snow Cloak because there's no other Hail Setter on the team. And even if there were another Hail Setter, this would be the better one. Next up, yeah, that's pretty much what it does. It sets up the Aurora Veil and then just maybe gets off a Blizzard or a Moonblast before it dies. Maybe not. Next up, we have Rotom Frost. This is probably going to be Choice Scarf. That's the most common item on a Rotom Frost that I've ever seen. It could run other items. It could run Specs if it's feeling crazy, but usually it's going to be something like Blizzard, Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball, Volt Switch with the Choice Scarf item. It doesn't have any abilities other than Levitate. It's probably going to be max special attack, max speed with Modest. Just trying to hit hard and hit fast and get damage off. This thing can actually be really strong, especially just with Blizzard in the Hail. It's a menace. Next up we have Aerodactyl. It's probably going to be the Focus Sash. It usually is. It could run any of its 3 abilities, although like with this set, Rockhead isn't useful, but Unnerve is probably its best ability in the other cases, although Pressure, if my opponent doesn't expect me to bring a berry, is just as good, if not better. Tailwind, Iron Head, Dual Wing Beat, Rock Slide. Like, Dual Stab is probably something that you bring on Aerodactyl. It's not, like, guaranteed or necessary, because this is mostly just a Tailwind setter that's really fast, but it does have a good attack stat and a great speed tier. It's outspeeding a lot of things. It's outspeeding most things short of Dragapult, which is on this team itself. So that's just always something to keep in mind. But probably just there to set up Tailwind for the opposing team. Could also run Taunt, I think it gets Taunt. Does it get Taunt? It does get Taunt. So that's something else to consider. It could run Taunt over Iron Head or one of its stabs. Please. Yeah, it could definitely run this kind of a set as well. Something to keep in mind. Next up we have Marowak, always going to be running the Thick Club unless it's running Choice Specs, in which case I've lost to Choice Specs Marowak in the past. It's like, yeah. It's a set. It's not a good set, but I've only got 3 moves on this thing because there's honestly no telling what the 4th move could possibly be. It's probably going to be running Bone Meringue. Rock Slide is just a good move overall. Detect is pretty common, although not necessary, and then it has just every coverage move under the sun, so there's no real telling what it could be. It could even run some kind of tech move like Endeavor, something crazy like Blizzard. You never know. You honestly never know. It could run Belly Drum just to be crazy, be insane. There's really no telling what this thing will run outside of Detect, Bone Meringue, probably Rock Slide. It's just a crazy Pokemon. Next up we have Absol. Absol could run any of its 3 sets this week. It could run like something banded with pressure. It could run Justified Beat Up, although I think that's a less strong set into my team with Togekiss. It's definitely a possibility to consider. And it could always, of course, run Super Luck Scope Lens, which is the kind of crit set that you see fairly often. Usually it's going to be running 4 attacks. It very rarely runs Detect or Protect, but it could always, if it wants to do more damage into specifically my Steel types or my fighting weaknesses otherwise, it could run Close Combat over one of these moves, but usually it wants to run at least a couple of high crit rate moves. Stone Edge is not as common, but definitely a possibility if you're running a crit set like I'm expecting. And yeah, Sucker Punch is just always good coming off of a base 130 attack Pokemon. Next up we have Glaceon. Glaceon is most likely going to be some stupid set with Snow Cloak. I put the Bright Powder on it because I hate it. If my opponent actually brings a Bright Powder Glaceon and I find out that it's the Bright Powder, then by my Draft League rule, they are banned from my Twitch chat for a month. This is something that I have not gone over with this Draft League, but I hope that this person in particular would know, because I think that the coach of this team has been in a Draft League with me before. Anyways, it could also run other items like Babiri Berry, etc. But I think something unexpected is more likely. Something like Bright Powder. Could also run Focus Sash, of course. Probably a better item, more useful, but you never know. With Bright Powder Snowcloak, what will happen? This thing doesn't get any coverage moves, like Shadow Ball, Blizzard. If you wanted to run a 3rd typing move, you would have to run something like Round or Hyper Voice, which neither of those are great options. Freeze Dry actually gets you better coverage than that more often, so yeah, Shadow Ball, Blizzard, Freeze Dry, kind of a thing. Probably Min Speed, kind of a Trick Room Pokemon, with max special attack. And the same thing kind of goes for Sylveon. Sylveon, Pixelate, Pixie Plate. It's a lot stronger than Glaceon. Not in terms of special attack, because Glaceon has higher special attack. But it's just better typing. Like, there is a reason that Glaceon's typing is one of the worst and Sylveon's is one of the best. And it's not because of the Pokemon, but it really does help the Pokemon out a lot. Pixelate is just a really good ability. Pixie Plate is the most common item on Sylveon, although it could run all sorts of other items. It also doesn't get too much coverage, just really Shadow Ball, and without even normal coverage. It could run Mystical Fire as well over Quick Attack, but Quick Attack is fairly useful. It could run that with a Weakness Policy Dragapult. That's something to look out for. We've got just kind of standard stuff. It's probably going to be another Trick Room Pokemon if it comes. If not, it would be obviously not Min Speed, but it's most likely going to be something like this. Yeah. Moving on, we have Scrafty. Scrafty probably going to be the Roselli Berry just because it's 4 times weak to Fairy type attacks. It honestly might not survive them regardless of Roselli Berry, even through Intimidate with Play Rough, for example. It's just, as bulky as it is, I have strong hitters that can use Fairy type attacks. Intimidate is the 100% ability that it's going to have this week if it comes. Fake Out is a must for my opponent in case I don't bring in DD. Sorry for the yawning. I do have to try to get this out at a not great time. Close Combat Lash Out for Dual Stab is most likely. Both stabs are pretty good into my team, although neither hits Togekiss. If it wants to run Iron Head, it can do that. It could also run that over Taunt, but I'm expecting some sort of attack move or a Detect in this last slot. It could, if it wants to go really crazy, go with a Dragon Dance set, but again, pretty sure that's too crazy. In any case, we have probably just max attack, min speed, trick room stuff kind of a thing. Finally, the Trick Room setter on the team is their 10th pick, their 3rd free agent from the C tier. They've got Babiri Berry is the most likely item for this because it's 4 times weak to Steel type attacks. Sturdy is the most likely ability just because Clear Body doesn't do much for a Carbink. It's just not great for a Carbink. It probably runs something really annoying like this. Trick Room, Ally Switch, Iron Defense, Body Press if it comes. I'm not necessarily expecting Carbink to come because it's just not great into my team. It just doesn't do too much, really, and it's 4 times weak to Steel type attacks, which I have a couple of on my team. It's entirely possible that it does come, though, and in that case, I am prepared for it, and I just hope it's not running this stupid set, because that would make me sad. Next up, last but not least, we have Doublade. It's their free agent from the D tier, their 4th and final free agent. Swords Dance is pretty much a must on Doublade, and then Iron Head, Shadow Sneak are pretty common. It could run Shadow or Shadow Claw or some other Ghost type physical move. I think it gets Poltergeist, but I might be wrong. It does not appear to get Poltergeist. Okay. It could run a couple of other moves in this slot for coverage, but Night Slash is probably best into my team just because I have an Indeedee. Eviolite is going to be the item if it comes. No Guard is going to be the ability because it doesn't have another one. And it's going to be another Trick Room mod if it comes. Basically, my opponent drafted in speed order almost. The only 2 that were drafted out of speed order on my opponent's team, or at least not counting the free agents because I don't know what order my opponent drafted the free agents, but they basically drafted everything outside of, I'm pretty sure, Marowak and Ninetales. Marowak and Aerodactyl. Other than those 2, I'm pretty sure everything was drafted in speed order. Just going down the list. So yeah, that is my opponent's team this week. What am I expecting? Definitely Dragapult, probably Ninetales, most likely Rotom Frost. I'm not certain about anything else, although Absol is pretty possible, and Scrafty is another high probability mon. So, with that in mind, what is my team? I've only got one version this week because I built this very recently. Let's get straight into it. First off, we have Fermi, my Caparaja. All of my Pokemon are named after scientists and or scientists things. So we've got Schrodinger's cat as our Liepard. For me, naturally was a physicist, but this is kind of like a double pun in that for me sounds like the Latin word ferrum, which is Latin for iron. So we have our kind of standard Sheer Force Life Orb Copperajah set, and my music has just restarted very awkwardly. Wow. That is the most awkward loop I've ever heard. Protect Ironhead, Play Rough. I've got Bulldoze on here as my 4th move. I honestly couldn't tell you why. Just for coverage into Doublade, really. But it doesn't do much else. And, I mean, it's a Sheer Force move, so it's almost as strong as Earthquake, and it doesn't make me take Life Orb damage, pretty much. Not to mention that I'm bringing Togekiss, as well as a Recover Porygon 2, so I shouldn't be in too much trouble if I use it, and I hit my own Pokemon. Ironhead is really good coverage into all the Steel types. Play Rough is really good coverage into almost everything else on the team. Between Ironhead and Play Rough, I think I'm hitting 9 Mons for super effective. And the only ones I'm not hitting are Marowak and Doublade. Doublade is covered by the Bulldoze, so Marowak is the only thing on the entire team that Copperajah can't hit for super effective damage. Which is great, and it hits it for neutral with, like, all 3 of these moves. So, Copperajah, for that reason, really, is the main reason I was like, man, Copperajah is good this week. Next, we have Lovelace, our Porygon 2, named after Ada Lovelace, of course, the mother of modern computing. It's Eviolite. It's going to be Trace this week, just so I can maybe pick up a useful ability from the opposing side. Actually, do I want a useful ability from the opposing side? Do I want... What abilities are useful from the opposing side? Levitate, I guess. That's good enough reason. Trick Room, Recover, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt. It's just Bolt Beam set plus Trick Room, Recover. Very standard Porygon 2. It's got enough HP that it's at a good recovery ability. It's at a good recover number. It's at a decent Hail Chip number. The massive defenses, because most of my opponents really threatening mons into the Porygon 2 are physical attackers. I mean, the only 2 that can hit it for super effective are really... I mean, it's Absol, Scrafty, and Doublade that can hit it for super effective with close combat. And with this, it can survive a Scrafty close combat twice before recovering, like 3/4 of the time, which is very good. It's min speed naturally to be min speed. I don't know what else there is to clarify about that. It's just min speed because of Trick Room. Next, we have Curie, named of course after Marie Curie. The discoverer of several radioactive elements in the periodic table. It's just a very interesting dual screens Indeedee set. I think it can work this week just because I don't have much else for Indeedee to do, but Indeedee is really good. It's a good check to Dragapult because it can tank a lot of its moves with its high HP and defense. Somehow I've managed to get even defenses. I don't know how I was not planning on that, by the way. I just wanted to have a max defense and this particular HP stat, and I've just now realized that it has even defenses. That's interesting. Anyways, it's as much defense as I could put into it, a good HP number for the Hail Chip that I am expecting. And yeah, it's just running Reflect Light Screen and on top of its standard Follow Me Expanding Force. That's its kind of thing it's doing. Hoping to set up its screens and just protect Copperajah and Chandelure and potentially Togekiss from any opposing attacks. Speaking of Togekiss, we've got Schrödinger for our Togekiss. Because Schrödinger, naturally known for Schrödinger's cat, kind of thought experiment, quantum mechanics stuff. This is really Schrödinger's Togekiss, because my opponent will have absolutely no idea whether it's offensive or it's a support Togekiss. Probably the entire set. Like, I could Dynamax this thing, and it's basically still a support Togekiss. It's got a lot of HP investment. it's got to be a high speed regardless. And it's really a mix between the two. Like, I have a decent number of HP. It's just under the Hail Chip number, but it's also a decent amount of special attack investment, so that I can actually threaten with Dazzling Gleam Air / Heat Wave. And I've got a crit set for really no reason. Should I run Serene Grace just for the Heat Wave burns? And Air / Flinches, of course. Because I forgot to factor in Heat Wave burns when I was making this set. Looks at opposing teams, Serene Grace, and item of Citrus Berry. No. I'm going crazy. I'm going insane. Anyways, Liepard is Schrodinger's cat. That's why Schrodinger's cat. Focus Sash. That's pretty bulky this week, actually. In terms of physical defense, I've got enough HP to be 1 below, multiple of 16. Same thing. Hail Chip. Fake Out, Taunt, Thunder Wave are my priority moves, and I've got Foul Play to one-hit KO Dragapult. Yeah. Dragapult is not bulky, and if it's a physical set, then Foul Play is going to just one-hit KO it, straight up. Very easily. This speed is enough to outspeed a Rotom Frost as long as it's not Choice Scarf. And then, yeah, the rest is just to make it bulky enough to hopefully survive a hit or two. And finally we have Röntgen. Röntgen is famous for his discoveries. I think it's Wilhelm Röntgen. Röntgen is famous for stuff involving X-rays and more radioactive stuff. I feel like I've picked 3 people to name Pokemon after who were doing research into radioactive materials. Anyways, Choice Scarf Infiltrator. Infiltrator is for Ninetales, of course. It's got enough speed to outspeed the Dragapult, and Flamethrower, Heat Wave, Shadow Ball. Energy Ball is my coverage move this week to hit Carbink and Marowak. Everything else gets hit for at least neutral, most things for super effective. The only things that don't get hit for super effective, I think, are Sylveon, Scrafty, Absol, and Aerodactyl. So it hits the other 7 on that team for super effective damage, which is really good. Chandelure is hopefully going to be a kind of alternative to Copperajah just in terms of sheer damage output. It's threatening from the other side of the spectrum in terms of physical special. And yeah, I'm just really hoping that all of these mons can put in a bunch of work this week. Sorry if this seems a little bit rushed. It's really because I have been running late, as it were. And this is really something that I just completely forgot to record this video before, literally 15 minutes before the match is supposed to start. So yeah, that's why this is rushed. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the battle video, which I am hopefully really about to record right now. Until then, bye!